Have you ever wondered how much does it cost to go to a nurse practitioner program in the United States? You're thinking of becoming a nurse practitioner, or you're not sure yet, but you're thinking of that option for your career in the future. In this episode, we're gonna go over how much it costs to go to one of nurse practitioner programs in the United States. Let's dive in. Hi, we're gonna get into today's topic in a minute, but before we're gonna dive into today's topic, I just want to mention that we are giving out free access to our online workshop. This workshop is about confidence. We had this workshop and we got so many good responses, feedbacks from the audience. So I wanted to give it out to more people so that you can boost your confidence and get more career opportunity, get into your dream nurse practitioner programs, and get pay raises. How you can sign up and how you can get access to this workshop is go to a website, usa.jnpproject.com/confidence. Again, usa.jnpproject.com/confidence and sign up for our free email list. This is a 90-minute online workshop. You can watch it as many times as you want. It also comes with a handout of the slides that I used in the workshop. Again, a lot of people loved it. It really helps to boost your confidence. So I want you to have the opportunity. So please sign up. All right, let's get into today's episode. So today's topic is about how much nurse practitioner programs in the United States cost. Cost is definitely one of the important factors when you consider which programs, which schools you want to go into. So we're definitely going to dive into that today. First of all, most of the nurse practitioner programs require students to complete 30 to 54 credits. Depends on the specialty and programs. 30 to 54 credits. I know it's almost like 30 to 54 is almost double of 30 credits. So this means that it ranges a lot. One other thing we need to know is there are two options. There are master's level programs, MSN, Masters of Science in Nursing. So those, after you graduate, you get master's degree. So those programs usually takes 15 to 24 months to complete. Meanwhile, doctorate level programs, which is usually DNP, Doctor of Nursing Practice, usually takes 3 to 4 years. So it takes twice as a master's degree. So usually the longer it takes, that means more credit you have to complete to graduate. That means more costly. So generally, doctor level, so DNP programs are more expensive than the master programs. In the previous episodes, I discussed about the differences between the master's and DNP programs and which programs are more appropriate for you. So if you haven't watched it yet, please do so. But just to know that, MSNs are usually cheaper than the DNP programs. But there are recommendations that the National Organization of Nurse Practitioner Faculties mentioned that by 2025, which is next year, basic nurse practitioner training should transition to DNP level. So I'm not sure if all the programs will switch to DNP program right away, as soon as we hit January 1st of 2025. I assume that the transition won't be black and white like that, because they keep saying that we should transition to DNP for how many years? When I moved to United States back in 2020, I already heard that and I thought that, I have to go to DNP. But not all schools agree to transition to DNP. And in fact, in Hawaii, back in the day, there was no DNP program at the time. So I just went to master's program and then graduate from master's program and become a nurse practitioner. I did went back to school to obtain DNP for my career, but my classmates from MSN program still practice as a nurse practitioner all over the United States. And there are so many nurse practitioners in the same situation. So, one thing to consider is that, but the transition is happening. We don't know if it's going to be exactly 2025 or it's going to be later on. But more and more programs are transitioned to DNP programs. So just think about that. In general, master's programs are cheaper than the DNP programs. And the average cost for tuition for a master's program is ranging from $18,810 to $185,820. So it has a huge range. It depends on, whether you go to private school, whether you go to public school, whether you consider in-state resident or non-resident. But it ranges from about $18,000 to $185,000. Meanwhile, the DNP programs, the BSN to DNP programs, usually cost more because it's longer, you need more credits to graduate. And it ranges from $26,000, $490 to $254,260. So again, it ranges a lot. The cheapest and the most expensive, you have to add 10 in the end. So it ranges a lot. But in general, master's programs are cheaper than the DNP programs. Why does it range a lot? The range is so huge. Why is it different? Depend on the school. Because, it also, you have to consider whether it's public school or if it's private school. In general, private schools are cheaper if you qualify for in-state or resident tuition. So because those public schools like University of Hawaii or University of California and so on, those universities are funded by the state tax, so taxpayers usually get discount. So people who are from the state or been living in the state are qualified for those in-state and resident tuition. So average tuition for in-state is $400 per credit. So for the nurse practitioners program, it's going to cost on average $18,000 to complete the program if you are qualified for in-state or resident for tuition. But if you are considered out-of-state or non-resident, which is majority of international students are considered out-of-state or a non-resident, I was considered that way for the majority of part, then you have to pay more. So remember that in-state tuition, $400 per credit, but for out-of-state, on average, it will cost $700 per credit. And to complete the whole nurse practitioner program, if you're considered out-of-state student, you have to pay $31,500 to complete. Okay? So if you don't qualify for in-state tuition, another cheaper option would be go to online programs. So online programs are generally cheaper than hands-on or hybrid programs. So on average, online programs cost $400 to $800 per credit. And to complete the online nurse practitioner programs, on average, it costs $22,500. So it's cheaper than going to public school as an out-of-state student. But I also discussed this in the previous videos, online, hybrid, and then hands-on, in-person programs, which is better. So tuition is not the only thing you should think about, but also tuition should be something to consider, because if you can't afford it, you can't complete it, then you cannot become a nurse practitioner. So definitely something to think about, but you also want to think about pros and cons of all the aspects. So in general, most expensive options to go to nurse practitioner programs are in general private universities. So private universities usually on average, it costs $45,000 to complete the whole program. But again, this depends on the programs, on the universities, because they can just name it, we're going to charge this much, we're going to charge this much. And then also depends on the specialty, whether you go to acute care, whether you're going to go to family practice, whether you're going to go to pediatrics. So it depends on the specialty as well. So in general, master's programs are cheaper than doctorate programs. And then public schools are cheaper than private schools in general. But it depends. So when I came to United States, I was considered out of state because I came here for school as a resident or in-state student. There are some criteria. You have to be working in the state for at least 1 year. It depends on the state. There's different rules. But for University of Hawaii, in Hawaii, you have to work at least 1 year in the state to show that this is your main resident. For international students, because they're here for school, but international students are considered, their home is elsewhere. Their home is in their home country, and they're here to study. The reasoning is because you don't pay state tax. So these schools are funded by state tax. So that kind of makes sense. But majority of international students don't qualify for in-state or resident tuition. So when I think about it, because back in the day when I was thinking of applying for University of Hawaii for a nurse practitioner program, the master's program, I calculated and realized that it's actually cheaper for me who are non-resident to go to private school than public school, because tuition as an out-of-state student to go to the public school was actually more than going to the private school. Another thing too is I actually got offer for a scholarship at the private school, so it was actually more affordable for me. So there are a lot of financial support you can utilize. So even if you realize, oh, that's so expensive, don't give up yet, because luckily, we're the best job in the United States. There's so many demand for nurse practitioners, and this high demand, extremely high demand in the United States will continue for at least decades and, who knows how long. So there are a lot of financial support for nurse practitioners. So even if the school that you really want to go asks for really high tuition, don't give up yet, because there's so many financial support that you should look into, and maybe you can afford it. So for example, there's scholarship by the university or different organization, and then also loan repayment programs. There are so many options. So before you make the decision like, oh, the tuition is so expensive, I cannot afford it, don't give up yet. And I'm gonna make an episode about financial support available for nurse practitioner students. So, you should look into that and then see. Maybe it's actually affordable if you use those financial support. So again, there are a lot of things to think about when you apply for nurse practitioner programs. Tuition is one of the things, you need to be practical. You not only you pay tuition, but you have to consider cost of living and stuff like that. Also, quality of clinical training, whether the school will support you to find good preceptors or clinical sites, or do they give you a good hands-on training? Because nursing or our healthcare services, not everything can be learned online, so you do need some hands-on training. So whether the school offers you any opportunity to learn hands-on training, so you have to think about different factors. But again, tuition is something you need to think about. And then in the future, I'm going to talk about financial support to possibly make your dream school more affordable for you. So I hope you are subscribing, so you are going to get notification when the video is up. But I hope this video was helpful to you. If you have any questions or any opinions or any suggestions for future episodes, please write down in the comment section. And if you're listening to podcasts, I will really appreciate if you can post a good grading so that more people will listen to my podcast. All right. I hope you have a great day. Aloha.